Hello, hello, hello. We are back again. I'm while we're waiting to get started, I'm gonna start my little list here of what I need to remember for us to talk about. Um, Actually, let me make sure that things are going well. Okay, that's set up. Okay, okay, okay. Yep, I think we're good. All right, so the things I need to remember to talk about today. So, our last week's number vibration was 593. And then, oh, hi, Tarot Gothis. Thanks for being here. If you have any hip hop related numbers or topics you'd like me to include on this list that I'm making, let me know. Um, so 593 was our vibration from last week. Also wanted to talk about that 6-7. And this probably is a better day for it because the messages are much more interesting and less annoying than if we talked about it yesterday, just generally. And then I had a message from Josh about Mob Deep, Mob Deep, Nas, and Big L. Okay, how are you doing? I know it's during, you know, it's football season. So I'm sure many people are off watching football. Um, but luckily, these lives are recorded and everybody has a way of getting a hold of me, either in the comments or um, in Discord or in I have my email address in my description as well. So anybody can always send me some numbers or information or discussion points or questions that they want to talk about. Oh, good. I'm glad that you're good and not as tight. Yeah, yesterday, this whole week has been kind of like a odd energy, kind of draining week for some reason. Um, I don't know exactly why, but it feels very different than like that energy that was making us, well, at least me, very tired in September. That September energy felt way different. Um, September felt like tiring because you were like walking through mud. This energy feels tiring, I think, just because there's a lot of it. So we keep having to like move it through. So that's interesting. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with, we'll start with last week's vibration. So we always get a random number vibration from our special wheel to be able to practice seeing and feeling and working with these vibrations. Um, and so last week, our vibration was 593, which when we add those three digits up, we get a 17 and add those two up and we get an 8. And so in this last week, we were really supposed to be looking for, feeling out for, and making some connections around how growth. So yeah, how growth. Hi, Noah. Thanks for being here. So, really, around how growth is impacting and ending. I hope you're doing well, Noah. So, this is our vibration from last week that we're practicing and working with. And so, it really is about how growth is contributing to an ending, and then how this ending is contributing to a change. And so, this growth really could be anything. Like, you grow in the way that you're thinking, you grow in a behavior that you're doing, you grow out of something. And so all of that can really like change your perspective. Um, oh, good. I'm so glad, Noah. I'm glad you're back here. Um, And so, how thinking about how we grow, and it could actually lead to an ending of things, ending or shifting out of our lives, or like if it's um, growing in a way like you get some information and you grow in knowledge, then that could end the way that you saw things before, or end an opinion that you had prior, and then that can lead to needing to change. So this was an interesting vibration that we had for last week. And when all of this is coming together, then we get to this 17, which is action and flow. So it's being able to take action in that vibrational flow. So then we can take advantage of the new energy that's coming in, but also, and Tarot Gothis, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but this 17 in the tarot is representative of the star. So a pretty auspicious, positive card. And so this vibration really was giving us the message, and having us look out for how we could grow to bring an ending to something in our lives that then led to a change that shined like a bright star and led to us being able to take action around new energy and take advantage of these cycles, these infinite cycles. So it very much, because we have this new energy here, it definitely feels like it's like um, being able to take the right action. So then that energy that you're putting out can return to you in a different form, because that's really what 8 is. It's about reap what you sow and like your karma. So that's our vibration, our energy from last week. I did make a little list of what to talk about today. Um, so we just talked about this 593, so we could cross that off. The other thing I just want to put here is to remind myself to get the next random number. So a new random number. Because sometimes I get so deep into the conversation and I be sitting here so long that I forget to spin our wheel. And that's sometimes the best part is being able to spin the wheel. Okay. So let's get started talking about this 6-7. Yeah, let's talk about 6-7. So here we go. What color do I want to start with? All right, let me get my calculator ready. Is there anything else that you all wanted to talk about today that was specifically hip hop related? We'll see if we can fit it in. Um, get my calculator. Calculator. Got it. Okay. All right. Just in case we need it. So, this week we've had a lot of stories. Not in hip hop, thank goodness. But a lot of stories in the news and around kids using this new slang term. I know I sound so old saying that, but I don't know what else to call it. 6'7". It was in the episode of South Park this week, which is hilarious to me because I love South Park. It was so funny that that was like the topic of discussion in South Park, but they usually are pretty relevant. But how this relates, well, before we get there, let's talk about what these vibrations are. And so when we are talking about 6'7", and most of these stories really were about how annoyed teachers were getting around their students using this as a joke and using it for everything. Um, but it's significant that it's separated out this way because then that means each of these vibrations is acting independently. It's not like 67 where they're actually working together. Um, and they're creating a new vibration when they're coming together. So when we talk about it this way, where it's 6'7", um, then it really is using this as a number and a single vibration. And so 6 is really about comfort and remembering that all of our vibrations are neutral. And so we are encountering everything that we would consider positive and negative around that vibration. And so for this vibration of 6, where it's comfort, this is really going to be challenging the comfort zones. And this is what's happening with these teachers is their comfort zones are getting very disrupted. Um, and then that's leading to some kind of action. Um, when it's an action that's taken in this space of either you're comfortable or you're not comfortable, then you're in flow. So like all the students would be in flow because they're loving that they're making adults real uncomfortable with this because they just don't understand. And for like the teachers that are trying to take action and do all these tricks to get students to stop using this term, they're really trying to force an action. And any action that is taken, especially with this 7 vibration, that isn't in vibrational flow, is not going to work. It really looks silly. And I didn't want to talk about this yesterday, mostly because it was just dumb. Because I think it's dumb that the teachers and the older generations are like getting on the kids about actually using this term. Just let them have it. That they're saying, oh, it's so disruptive. I'm sorry to tell you, but school and the educational system, especially in the United States, has forever been disruptive. Forever and always. So let it be. Um, but then when we are thinking about how these are coming together and what's the bigger message that is coming, this is where hip hop comes into play. Because this term 6'7", um, You're very right, Tarot Gothis. It doesn't matter what they do. It's going to be disruptive, especially for like their teachers and for their parents and any generation that's older than them, because they're not going to get it. It's like each generation has their set of inside jokes. Um this is coming from hip hop because I believe it's Skrilla is the hip hop artist out of Philadelphia that really kind of coined this term, and this is where this is coming from. But most of his subject area um, is around very uncomfortable topics that people don't want to really talk about. So he talks a lot about like Zombieland, which is where all of the people that are struggling with drug addictions in Philadelphia really are. I don't know too much more than that, but most of his songs are really talking about subject areas that are disruptive to the comfort and to the comfort zones of people that are not wanting to see these struggles of other people, are not wanting to and it's not even that we should be stepping in to help them. Like, yes, we should be there to help them if they want it, but it's really understanding and still seeing them as people, and that is what makes people uncomfortable. um and so this is the tie into hip hop, and so we can then take this two different paths. So I think we have two paths that we can take with this discussion into hip hop. And one path would be oh my gosh. Sorry, my I using my other phone for my calculator and it locked up and made a weird noise, so I got scared that I wouldn't be able to use it. I don't know why. But we have two paths. So we have one path we can take that's combining these vibrations, because I think there's a deeper message within combining these vibrations instead of being 6-7, being 67. And that definitely relates to hip hop. And then we have another path that is actually talking about these overlapping of generations, because we've seen that not just in hip hop this week, but for a while now, where we've seen like these generational clashes that have been happening. And so we have another route we can take on generations. So we have A path and B path. We'll go over both, but do you have a particular path you would like to start with? A or B? A or B? B or A? Let me know in the chat, and I'll get some water and prepare. Because both of them actually have a lot coming up from them. Okay, I got an A from Tarot Gothis. We'll see. We'll see if anybody else has a vote. Noah, if you're still here, do you have a preference of A or B? And of course, because this is hip hop, we will be relating both paths to hip hop directly, and to things that have come up this week, because they both relate to some of the things that have come up in hip hop this week as well. Okay. Alrighty. So we are going to start on path A. We'll go with 67. So when we put these two vibrations together to get 67, instead of just leaving them as individual vibrations, now we're getting more of a message because now we have taking this action and flow is now contributing to like examining comfort zones, but also building comfort zones. And then this adds up to, so if we do 6 plus 7, now we get this 13, which is like the biggest transformation you can make. And it goes to a 4, which is giving you like a brand new foundation of things. So, how this is relating to hip hop is actually in the some of the words that relate to 67 or like resonate at 67. So, one of the words that resonates at 67 is the name Chiron. And also, the word soul resonates at 67. And the word water. So, like with the flow of water, or if you're thinking about like in astrology or in the tarot, um, water is usually represented by the cups in tarot. In astrology, we have water signs, and both of those are related to the emotions. So, the movement of emotions and the use of emotions. Um, we're going to focus in on Chiron because Chiron is the wounded healer. And what we have right now is hip hop is going through its Chiron return, meaning that it's having to face its wounds, the wounds that have been inflicted on it, but also the wounds that it has inflicted on others, and begin to work through those wounds to be able to grow and become um, really, like we have up here for 67, transformed. And so this is where the connection to hip hop comes in, where hip hop is facing its wounds. And so we've seen this quite a bit in the last few years because this would have started probably right around 2023. So, right at that like 50-year anniversary is when the Chiron return would have started for hip hop. And so we have seen, and it's Libra season, so we have seen where some of these wounds have been displayed in court cases. We've had new music that has come out that has displayed these wounds. Um, but what we really want to focus on is that, wow, I did not mean to do that, is this transformation and how we can use those wounds in order to be able to grow and become stronger. And so the biggest thing that I've seen this week, and you can let me know if you've seen something different, is a lot of this talk about hip hop healing. So hip hop healing, like it went from hip hop had a win to hip hop healing. And what are they healing? What is hip hop healing from? It's these wounds. These wounds are being healed, and working through these wounds to be able to get to this healing. And something that I don't know how it relates, but it's coming up is So we've had all of this talk in the hip hop space about the case that was just dismissed, um, where Lawbry was suing UMG and Kendrick Lamar. Not Kendrick Lamar, really. It was Kendrick Lamar's songs, but he was suing UMG for defamation. And when that was dismissed, not this past week, but the week before, there was a big celebration. And so then that was a big celebration. And then we came into this week where it was the healing could begin. And one of the things that we got from that was Screwface John put out his next video and song, which was Document 80. And it's interesting because 8 is the vibration of like karma or reap what you sow. So 8 is like karma. And this 0 is the God vibration. It's the one vibration that we can't control. And so it's this representation of this energy that's coming together to really have it be a reap what you sow moment. But also, when you put this energy out towards healing, what you're getting in return is healing as well. Oh, hi, Josh. I'm glad you could make it. Thanks for being here. I'll backtrack a little bit so you can see what we're talking about. So we started talking about all the stuff in the news about 6-7. And we had 2 paths to go on with this. And we are just starting this first path where we're talking about 67 in general. And so 67, we found, is the numerical vibration of the word Chiron, which is the wounded healer. And hip hop is going through its Chiron return, where it is beginning to heal from the wounds that have been inflicted on it and that have it has inflicted on others. And we were just talking about how Screwface John's new song that just came out, this Document 80, was interesting because 80 really is that God energy coming in and enhancing the return of energy, like karma. And that's what the whole song is about. So and with that, karma isn't always a bad thing. It's not always the reap what you sow is a negative thing. It can also be very positive. So this is actually one way that healing can actually come back to you. If you are putting out this energy that is trying to raise the vibration of the vibration around you, whether it's people or like in the hip hop space, now that healing can come back. It's also interesting because last week we talked about how Lawbry's relationship with hip hop was a mirror image of Tupac's relationship with hip hop. And the Document 79, which was the first song that Screwface John put out about the oh, okay, yeah, because we had Document 80 just came out today, came out early this morning, but the first one was 79, and this one really was about the wounding. So 79 was about the wounding, and Document 80 is more about the healing. And that relates back to this wounded healer. And so these are document 79 talks about the wounding that Drake was trying to inflict on hip hop through this court case. Hi, Mighty. Thanks for being here. I saw you live earlier, and I went in and just gave you a like, but I didn't say anything because I was still half asleep. But it's good to see you. Thank you for being here. So 79 is about the wounding that Lawry was trying to inflict on hip hop. And I didn't even think about it until Screwface put out his new song of Document 80 right around the same time that last week we were talking about that relationship between Tupac's relationship with hip hop and Drake's relationship with hip hop. And so to recap on that, where hip hop was acting as a mirror between Drake and Tupac. And hip hop's life path number is 39. Drake's hip hop or life path number is 58. And so when we add those two, well, let's do this one first. And Tupac, him and his legacy, so the representation of the vibration of Tupac, resonates at a 40. And so then if we looked at the relationship between them, so 39 plus 58 is 97, and then 39 plus 40 is 79. So there's that 79. So it's not a coincidence that the part of the petition to the court that Drake was putting in, where he really thought he was going to be able to use the reactors and use the content creators in the hip hop space against hip hop. He was trying to inflict a wound. It's not a coincidence that it's in the same vibration of this relationship that hip hop had with Tupac that he was trying to mimic so much. So that is very interesting. What other things happened this week that you could see around any of this wounding? I am putting together a whole series on wounding in hip hop, just mostly the vibrations of it. But was there anything else that anybody saw this week in particular? Let me know. I'm going to get some water. But it's interesting, too, how this came about. Okay. I'll wait and see if I'll give wait time to see if you're typing. Um, but I'll recap while you're thinking also. So all of this discussion started from teachers getting so upset that their students were using this term 6-7 and how that actually relates to this vibration of 67. And 67 does resonate with the word Chiron, which is the wounded healer. And hip hop is going through its Chiron return, where it's having to face its wounds and heal. And then we have this contrast between document 79, where it was Lawry trying to inflict the wound on hip hop, and then Document 80, which is the song that uh, Screwface John just put out, which is more around the karma coming back around and being supported by God energy. That's what the 80 is. And really representing the healing that hip hop is going through. I just thought that was very interesting. See, this is much more interesting than if we had talked about 6-7 yesterday, just generally, because it was just kind of getting on my nerves. I didn't really want to talk about it. But thinking about it this way, there's like actually a lot more connections with hip hop than I originally thought. Oh, you're right. You're welcome, Mighty. I'm glad I could do that. It just so happened that I had fallen asleep with YouTube on, which actually happens more often than I'd like to admit. And then when I was halfway awake and turning it off, I saw that you were live. Okay, so let's go down this other path and we can come back to that. And actually, before we do that, let me go back since we have a few more people here and see what else I should add to this list. Josh, I did add these artists that you sent me and the some of the work that they have come out. I think that's gonna come out in part of this next discussion. But is there anything else that we should add to this list? You know, it doesn't really matter what we add to this list. It usually all comes together and is shown to be the one big L message. Okay, cool. All right. So now let's go down. And if you do, still put it in the chat if you do have something to add. I don't mind coming back and adding it. But let's start going down this other way. So, in the news this week, there were several stories, and these were like national news stories, which was just insane to me, on this use of the term 6-7 and how disrupted it is to teachers, and it's driving teachers crazy. I don't know if you saw the South Park episode this week, but it was on and focused on this term 6-7, and it was just it was hilarious. But I like South Park. I like their humor. Also, I am originally from Colorado, and that's where South Park is, and so I have a weird connection with them as well. Because I've actually been to South Park, Colorado several times. Well, a couple times through it. One time actually stopped there. um, but, like, I think the thing that was irritating me the most is that, and this kind of always happens, is that we have these generations that it's like the older generation is always upset at the newer generation for not doing things their way, or not being in on their inside jokes, or feeling like they need to be in control. And I never really understood that, not even as a parent, because, like, just let the kids have it. Like, what is, school's always been disruptive. There's always been something that has disrupted school. And I'm sorry if right now your teacher education isn't preparing you for classroom management. That might be a you problem, not a kid's problem. But that kind of led to this thinking of what's happening within the generations, because we've had this discussion also in hip hop around what's happening with this newer generation. What, like, how is hip hop moving into this newer generation? And so, um, we first have to think about what's actually happening at each of the generational spaces. So we have a few planets in our astrology that represent uh, generational energy or generational vibrations. And one of the major ones is Pluto, which outside of astrology, people say, oh, it's not important anymore. It's not a planet, the scientists say. Well, its energy still very much influences us and is still impacting us and our lives. We still will find it in our astrological charts. And so if you go into looking at the astrological charts of different people, Pluto is the planet of transformation. I don't know why I did it as that, but whatever. But it's transformation. And so we were just seeing that Chiron return is transformation through wound healing. Pluto is transformation at a generational level. So it represents what is the transformation that a particular generation of people is bringing into the world and adding to the bigger group. It also is very closely tied to plutonic relationships. Plutonic. I can't spell, so if that's spelled wrong, it's whatever. We'll write it real messy because, if you write it messy, you can say it's spelled right, even if it's spelled wrong. But your plutonic relationships are really these relationships that you have with other people or like other generations or other groups that are transformative. This is where you learn your biggest lessons. It's and these we tend to think of these as relationships that are like most like toxic relationships, but they don't have to be. Hi, New Beginnings. Thanks for being here. So, Pluto is all about transformation and it's a generational planet. And so, what that means is that each generation that comes into the space, they are contributing to this generational goal of transforming the vibration, the energy of the world, of like everybody. So, for example, we have the generation that is driving us all crazy right now of the baby boomers. Before the baby boomers, this was like that silent generation. But the baby boomers, they have Pluto in Virgo. And Virgo is about health and wellness, but also daily life. And so they were meant to come into the space and change, transform, not just like change, not like a change that you can change back, but fully transform. It's like transformation is like going from a caterpillar to a butterfly. Once it's a butterfly, you can't really go back to a caterpillar. That's the difference between transformation and like change. Change, you could go back. Transformation, there's no going back. And so the transformation that baby boomers were meant to bring into the space was changing daily life. This was the generation that really was changing what it meant to be in relationship. They were changing like daily life of like in a family. Um like and we see it politically where the baby boomers were really the ones that were coming and putting in a lot of legislation of that was changing how we live our daily lives. Okay, fine. We're not going to go too deep into this because we want to get to these other generations. Then the next generation that came after was Generation X. Gen X. And these crazy fools have Pluto in Libra. And I can say that just because I'm one of them. But so Gen X was coming in to the world really focused on these Libra vibrations. They were meant to transform the areas of justice, what was considered justice, what was considered fair and not fair, and bring balance into a lot of spaces. Oh, yeah. So we are, yeah, I can recap. No problem, New Beginnings. Oh, and you're very welcome. You're very welcome. So, where we started. So, this is good. Thank you for letting me know we needed to do a recap because that's no problem. Where we started with this, if I can find it, is we started talking about this trend of 6-7 kids using 6-7 and how it was driving their teachers crazy. And so then that led into this discussion of generations, where how we always have this, where the generation before is irritated with how the next generation is doing things. And so that's where we are here, is we're now talking about how Pluto is this planet of transformation and then how that relates to the generations. And we're going to get to how these transformational pieces relate to hip hop and what we see in these newer generations of hip hop coming in. I think that's it. Okay, yes. So we have this baby boomer generation that have Pluto in Virgo, and they're all about transforming daily life. Yeah, yeah, that's what all the news stuff was saying, is that like the kids are saying it all the time and driving their teachers and their parents crazy. Yeah. And so we're kind of talking about how like each generation has their thing and it always irritates the generation before, but how to be able to work through that. So the baby boomers really were, they had this Pluto energy around Virgo, which was changing daily life. They were supposed to transform daily life, which, if you really think about it, they did. Like, because it was in that baby boomers generation where all of a sudden you had more mothers that were going into the workforce, and weren't necessarily just sitting at home. Thanks everybody for being here. Please make sure to hit the like button and let me know if you have questions or if you need me to recap anything. Thanks for everybody coming in. So baby boomers transformation, their generational transformation that they're contributing to the world, is about like changing daily life. And that's because of that Pluto in Virgo. So we'll put this here, that this is like daily life. It's also the health and wellness space. So that's kind of why, like with the baby boomers, that's where you started getting all of that weird gym stuff. Like that's where you started getting all of the like the different kinds of I can't even remember what they were, but like all of the health stuff, which is really weird. But they were meant to come in and change daily life in a way where it was truly transformative, where you couldn't go back. Then Gen X came in and they had Pluto in Libra, and this was really about changing the definitions of justice and of fairness. And so many of like the civil rights leaders are from this early part of Generation X. And so this is really the generation that was meant to come in and say, this is not fair. This is unbalanced, because that's Libra also. We need justice. And this is what justice should look like. Now, the next generation is always challenging the generation before. It's just innate. It just happens. So when Gen X is talking about what is fair, what is justice, how things can be balanced, it's challenging what the baby boomers have set up as daily life and the transformation that they have made from daily life or to daily life. The only way for these generations to really work together is for the next generation to be able to find an anchor point to the generation before. So all of these generations should not be trying to transform the world on their power alone. They should be building on what came before them. But just like if you're building, I don't know, we'll say like you're building a wall, if the bottom part, like the bottom set of bricks, are not connected to the next layer, now it's unshaky. Like it's shaky ground. It's not going to be strong. And so it's up to these generations to find anchor points. So where like the baby boomers started changing what daily life looked like, Gen X could come in and say, this is the most fair way that we should change daily life. So, for example, the baby boomers started this trend of more women going into the workforce, and Gen X was the first one to kind of say women shouldn't only have to be in certain positions. That's not fair. They should be able to do all of these different jobs, and they should be able to go into educational spaces that right now are just meant for men. So those are like anchor points before. But the lower generation, so like the baby boomers, had to accept that there was value in adding that fairness to that to the what they built around daily life. And the baby boomers were having to convince that silent generation of the same thing, of like how to be able to build upon that generation that came before. Yes, exactly, new beginnings. We have to have the sturdiness. So then we have the millennials, and I certainly cannot spell millennials. I'm gonna let you all spell it for me and then I'll write it in here because I can't spell. But the millennials have Pluto. Most of the millennials have Pluto in Scorpio. And Scorpio is really like it's deep reflection. It's deep emotional space. It's the emotional connection to things. Ah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I can't spell. I do numbers. I do numbers, not words. I do numbers, not words. Okay. And watch. You all put it in there and I'm still probably going to spell it wrong. There we go. There we go. I think I got it right. I think I got it right. And if I didn't, don't tell me. Just let me think that I did and be proud of myself. So the next generation are the millennials, where now they are coming in with this Pluto and Scorpio, and so they're drawing the conversation into very deep places, but not just deep, but in the emotional space. And this is also passion. So where these previous two, it's not like super passionate. It's like it's what you do. So like the Virgo baby boomers are saying we're transforming this because it makes daily life operate better. So you think about a Virgo, it's like everything in its place, everything working in the way that it needs to work. Very system oriented. And so it there's not a lot of emotion in that. And same thing with Gen X. We tease about Gen X all the time, that just like emotionless kind of generation, because we had to be to survive. Because our baby boomer parents were like letting us just be outside all the time and like not being watched or taken care of. It's a whole thing. But there also isn't that infusing of the passion, of the emotion, because that's what the millennials are supposed to be bringing in. So where Gen X gets so irritated with the millennials, not me, I love y'all millennials, you make me happy, um about them being so emotional, that's actually the generational transformation that they're supposed to bring into the world. They're supposed to be the ones that are making the connections to that deep emotional space and bringing passion into what is being done in the world. Like that's their advocacy. That is the space that they are supposed to be in. And again, the millennials need to find what are the passion points within what the generations before have done that they can connect that passion to. And the generations before need to just understand that the millennials are supposed to be bringing this passion. They're not supposed to be like us. That's what they're supposed to be doing. Yeah, you're right. You're right, New Beginnings. Good. I'm glad you can't spell either. I can't spell nothing. I'm terrible at spelling. Um, and so we have to make these like generational connections. And so then we're getting there. We're getting there. Hopefully I don't run out of space. But then we get to Gen Z. Gen Z. And I'm going to need to space for one more because we need to get to Gen Alpha. So we might have to like start writing this over. We'll see. Hi, Nara. Thanks for being here. So Gen Z has Pluto in Sagittarius. Oh God, there's another one I can't spell. Somebody give me the spelling of Sagittarius. And don't be putting no saggy tits in the chat, because even like that's the funny name that people say for Sagittarius, but that's not what it is. That's not what it is. And that would be these earlier generations anyway. It's not this new generation. Hi, Rusty. Thanks for being here. So while I'm waiting for somebody to tell me how to spell Sagittarius, since we've had some new people come in, I'm going to give a recap of what we're talking about and make sure everybody gets caught up so you can be part of the discussion. So, where this all started from was we were talking about this term 6-7 that these newer generations keep saying, and they're driving their teachers and their parents crazy with saying it. And I started by saying it was kind of annoying that this was like such a big news thing, because while it's annoying, it's not anything different than what we've been seeing. That one generation is always annoying the generation that comes before. And they all have their inside jokes, they all have their slang, they all have, oh, good, thanks, New Beginnings, and thanks, Suri, for me also. There's always this generational gap that happens. And so that's how we got on generations. And we're talking about how, and yes, this will relate back to hip hop. It's actually going to be a really important discussion in hip hop. But this got us to talking about how each of these generations are different because their Pluto is in a different sign. So the Pluto sign is what represents the generational transformation that a whole generation of people is supposed to bring into the world. And transformation is a set of changes that you can't go back from. That it's done. It's like going from a caterpillar to a butterfly. Can't go back to a caterpillar. And that's so funny. He felt it, New Beginnings. He felt it. He felt it. And so it's what each of these generations is meant to bring into the world. And sometimes it is like these slang terms. But we always have like these terms and these points in history that are related to the generations. And those things are always related back to the Pluto, because Pluto stays in a sign for like 15 to 20 years. So it a whole generation will have the same Pluto sign in their astrology. And so everybody can go and get like a free birth chart. You can just go put into the search engine for free birth chart and put in your birthday and look and see where Pluto was, and it should align with what generation you are a part of. And so then we started talking about how these different generations have to find anchor points to be able to connect to each other so that we actually have a stronger foundation, a stronger wall, and that we're building up and not building separately. And so the baby boomer generation really was about, like, its transformation was transforming daily life because their Pluto is in Virgo. So changing daily life. Yes, we were talking about that, Rusty, also, that yeah, Gen X is pretty tough. And I'm part of the tail end of Gen X also. But where baby boomers were really focused in on changing daily life, then Gen X came in, and Gen X had Pluto in Libra. And Libra is all about justice and fairness and having things be balanced. So Gen X was meant to take what the baby boomers had built, and the baby boomers had to let go. We're still having this problem with these older generations not letting go. But they needed to take what had been built by the baby boomers before them around daily life and transform it in a way where it brought in justice and fairness and balance. And that's because that Gen X had that Pluto in Libra. I promise this is going to relate to hip hop, and I'm sure some of you already see how it's relating. But think about how these different generations would play out in hip hop. And then we have the millennials that have the Pluto in Scorpio. And Scorpio is all about this very deep emotional place. It's also what the word that is coming up is mystery. Mystery. Scorpio likes to be mysterious. So mystery and passion and deep emotional place. They are mysterious. Like this vibration of Scorpio comes across as mysterious because they go so deep that it takes a while to find where that passion is, but they draw out this passion. They're meant to transform the world around passion and deep emotion. So they're meant to take what Gen X has built and transformed and add the passion to it, infuse the deep emotions to it. Because we already know the baby boomers and Gen X, yeah, not real emotional, not in touch with their emotions. Like emotions, yeah, we just kind of don't do that. Yes, this does relate to everyday life. And so I want you to get all the information so you can see how it relates to everyday life and to hip hop. Okay, so let me catch up. Actually, before, yeah, so we'll get to Gen Z in just a second. Let me catch up in the chat and make sure I'm getting everybody's questions and comments. Oh, yes, New Beginnings. You still can get a birth chart. All you have to do is click on unknown time. Like if you don't know what time you were born at, you just click unknown time. And you could still get a birth chart. Absolutely. Okay, so we are up to this Gen Z who has Pluto in Sagittarius. Sagittarius. Oh my gosh. I gotta move this down a little bit. Or move it over. Let's see. Let's try moving it over. Because our wheel is in the way. Okay, there we go. And so Sagittarius is known as the philosopher. So whereas Scorpio goes very deep emotionally, Sagittarius goes very deep mentally. So the philosopher goes very deep in a mental state. And so this is why Gen Z goes around talking about that makes no logical sense. And then proceed to explain to you why it makes no logical sense. Because their transformation is around being the philosopher and making those philosophical links in that mental space. Like that's what they're meant to do. Yeah. So here's the thing, Rusty, you're right. Like that emotion, because every single vibration is neutral. It holds everything that we would consider positive and everything that we consider negative. And it's up to us to be intentional to actually apply it in ways that are actually going to be positive for our life and for others around us. So if millennials are swinging around that emotion to try and cut boomers and generational X deep emotionally, they're in for a rude awakening, one thing, because like that it's very hard to cut Gen X or baby boomers deep emotionally. Like they have to come from a different route. But then that could be not productive. And same thing for like Gen X in like speaking to the millennials about, oh, what you're saying and what you're doing isn't fair, and becoming very yes sarcastic about it and taking all the emotion out, because justice and fairness doesn't necessarily involve the emotion. Now we can't work together. Now we can't work together. But we're always going to have that. We're always going to have that. Yes. Yes. But what's interesting is that when we get to this Gen Z um operates in similar ways. Like they seem to be more similar to Gen X than the millennials. But I don't know. That's just from what I've seen. Um, but Gen Z really is about that mental deepness and the philosophy. Like, what do you stand for? That's what the philosopher is asking. What do you stand for and why? And that's where they are challenging the millennials. It's like, I see you super passionate. I see you want to be all mysterious and deep in your emotions, but what does that actually mean? Where are you putting it towards? What are you passionate about? What do you stand for? And that's Gen Z's meant to bring in that transformative power. Now, oh my gosh, let's see if I can fit it. I'm going to have to rewrite this because look at this. But we have this Gen Alpha. Well, and this is just around like what you're bringing to the world as a whole generation. So this is one of the things where remembering that these vibrations are neutral. So it has everything. So within each generation, we're going to have this mix of like the use of the vibrations that are very powerful and good. And we have use of the vibrations that are negative and not so good. We're going to see all of that. But that's what makes it like truly transformative, because it is so big. It's like this whole generation, this combination of good and bad things that they're doing from this transformative place is what actually creates the transformation. Because if we go back to the example of like going from a caterpillar to a butterfly as true transformation, what's happening in that chrysalis or the cocoon is that everything that the caterpillar is destroyed first, and then we use those materials to create something new, which is the butterfly. So it is, we're getting into transformation is really about this balancing and the use of life and death together. And I don't know if Tarot Goth, if you're still in here, but we also saw back here that 67 or 6 7 together, they actually add up to 13. And 13 is the vibration of the biggest transformation you can make. And in the tarot, it is the death card. And it is about the birth, the death, and the rebirth. Yes, huge change. Oh, thanks. I'm glad you're still here, Tarot Goddess. Yes, so this huge change. Yay, Slay Queen! I'm so glad you're here. You did. You made it. So I'm gonna talk about Gen Alpha. So for Slay Queen and those that have just come in, I'm gonna talk about Gen Alpha, and then I'm gonna do a recap because I have to redraw this because it's gonna drive me nuts to see this. So I'm gonna redraw it, and then you'll get a recap of what we were talking about. Okay, Tarot Goddess, good to know. Good to know. Thank you for continuing to lurk. So Gen Alpha actually has their, oh my gosh, yeah, I gotta redo all of this. But Gen Alpha has their Pluto in Capricorn. And Capricorn is the structure. And so this Gen Alpha that has come in, and that is driving all of us earlier generations crazy, they are meant to transform the structure and systems of our world. They're meant to break down the structures of what we consider normal and the systems that we have been working in and running in this whole time. So yeah, they're going to make us uncomfortable and annoyed. And one of the things that they do to annoy us is use the term 6 7 all of the time. Because so Gen Alpha are any kids that were born after 2008. So around 2007, 2008 is when that Gen Alpha started. Okay, so I'm going to do a recap and redraw all this. This is very colorful and kind of cool, but. And while I'm recapping, think about how this relates to what we're seeing in hip hop and what's happening in hip hop, not just right now, but just in general, because that's where we're going to go next. So, this whole crazy conversation started with all of these news outlets reporting about kids using this term 6 7 and how annoying it was and how they're annoying their parents and they're annoying their teachers and it's being very disruptive. And we talked a little bit how this also is representative of the vibration of 67, which is a 13. Oh, yep. So you got those Gen Alpha, Slay Queen. You got those Gen Alphas in your house. I have my daughters are both Gen Z. So I don't get to encounter the Gen Alphas as much. But Gen Z, yeah. That's who I have around me. And so part of this was like this discussion kind of started as like, yeah, every generation is disruptive to the generation that came before. And every generation has like these slang terms, things that they do that just drive the generations before crazy. And it's really the next generation is meant to challenge the generation before. So the big vibration that tells us about how they are these new generations are interacting with the generations before is one of these generational planets, which is Pluto. And Pluto is the planet of transformation. And 13 is the number of transformation. It's the biggest change that you can make. This is where the example of coming from, like transforming from a caterpillar into a butterfly comes in, because you can't go back. That's transformation. And in the tarot, and Tarot Goddess did confirm, this is the death card. So this is like the biggest transformation that you can make. And so Pluto represents the transformation that each of the generations is meant to make. And so I'm going to give myself some room and watch me write too big so that I run out of room again, because that's how I do things. That's how I roll. Oh, oh my gosh, he wrote what? He wrote 6-7 all over. Uh-uh. 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 Yeah, yeah. But yeah, that, oh my gosh. Good question. So 6-7 is this term that actually is pretty related to hip hop, because it comes from this song. Actually, one song, but multiple songs from this hip hop artist out of Philadelphia called, his name is Skrilla. And for some reason, this new generation has picked up this term 6-7, and the older generations, nobody knows what it means. And we don't know why they like it so much, and they're just annoying everybody with it. And if you saw the most recent episode of South Park, that'll give you the best explanation. Because that, man, it was so hilarious. But in that South Park episode, they talk about how all the kids are using this term 6-7, and it makes me laugh, because I think about, like, what are some of the terms, the slang terms and stuff that I used in my generation, and how every generation has these slang terms. It's a way of the generation trying to find its identity, and separate itself from the generations before. And and that just cracks me up. Oh yeah, so we did talk about how it relates to 67, and just more about how that's transformative. And then also, hey Eva, thanks for making it. And also how that resonates with Chiron, which is the wounded healer. And hip hop is going through its it has to face the wounds of all of its generations, where it's at a point where it's needing to face its wounds and heal its wounds so it can step into wisdom. So that's where 67 came from, and we'll probably talk about it again. It kind of is, Rusty. It kind of is. It kind of is. Oh my gosh. Okay, so here we go. Um, and so we're talking about how each generation has its own um like transformation that it's meant to bring into the world. And it's based off of what zodiac sign its Pluto is in. And so those baby boomers, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to like go back and get spelling. And look at how big. Look how big I wrote this. Oh my gosh. Not the baby booms. The baby boomers. The baby boomers have Pluto in Virgo, which really is about daily life. So a lot of the transformations that um, baby boomers brought into the world was transforming how daily life was done and how things in daily life were changed. And then I kind of want to keep the colors the same, so I'm going to go back. Okay, green and then pink. Okay. Um and then we have uh Generation X, and Gen X has um its Pluto in Libra, which is very much about justice and fairness and balance. So a lot of the like leaders of the civil rights movement um, are coming from this Gen X, because their mission is to bring fairness, a transformation around fairness, justice, and balance. Hey, Judge, thanks for being here. I'm glad you could make it. I am having a good weekend. I hope you're having a good weekend as well. Even though yours is going to be done sooner than mine. And then the next generation are those millennials. Oh my gosh, and I have to go back and find out how to spell this. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, I can't spell. I can't spell. Okay, 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 okay. Wait, no, let me look again. I'm so bad with words. I could do numbers all day. Millennials. Is there two N's in that? Oh my gosh. Two N's? Oh yeah, two N's. Whoops. Whoops. Oh my gosh. Okay. So the millennials have their Pluto in Scorpio. And so their transformation that they're bringing into the world is really about passion and deep emotion. But they also bring in like a sense of mystery. But really it's really about this passion and this deep emotion. And so then we have our Gen Zers. Oh, good. See, I fit it all in. So then we have our Gen Zers. Oh my gosh, and here's where I gotta spell again. That have their Pluto in Sagittarius, not saggy tits, Sagittarius, and they are the philosophers. And this is about deep um, mental state or logic. And so that's the transformation that Gen Z is meant to bring into this world. Oh, I love you guys. And then we have this Gen Alpha. And Gen Alpha is the ones that are using this term 6-7. this is this is the 6-7 crew. And their Pluto is in the sign of Capricorn. And so the transformation that they're meant to bring into this world is around changing structures and systems. And so this like 6-7, this use of 6-7 is actually way deeper than they know, but and what we know. But the message that's coming out is that it really is about this 67, and it's related to, oh, I need a different color. I need a different color. Okay, here. So this Gen Alpha's 6-7 is related to 67, which is the numerical vibration of Chiron, which is about the wounds and also healing those wounds. But also, the last time Pluto was in Capricorn was in 1776. So at the time the Declaration of Independence was signed, to be considered the birth of this nation of the United States, is the last time that Pluto was in Capricorn. So the United States, it was meant to come into the vibrational space and establish and change structures and systems. But now, this Gen Alpha is coming in with the same vibration, and they have the strongest vibration that can actually tear down these structures and systems. So if you think about it, when we are thinking about something we've built, typically we are the ones that can destroy it the quickest and the easiest, like with the least amount of effort. And that's because when you have the same vibration, you can change very easily because you're not actually changing the vibration. So that means that this vibration of Pluto in Capricorn that Gen Alpha is carrying is the one vibration that aligns with the US's Pluto vibration and can undo the transformation that was created at that time. Their transformation can be so big that it outdoes it. It changes it completely. So all of that to get there. But the other thing that is pretty cool is that Chiron, so this wounded healer, is currently in Aries. And the US also has Chiron in Aries. And so the US is having to currently face its wounds and the wounds that it has inflicted on others. What? Okay. That's so funny. You all are hilarious. You crack me up. And also, hip hop. When hip hop was born, it also has Chiron in Aries. So just like how Gen Alpha is carrying that transformation Pluto energy that is the same as the United States. And so they have the ability to break up the structures and the systems that were put in place at that time. Hip hop actually has the ability to heal the wounds that the United States has inflicted. The wounds of United States. So I just thought that was cool. Like, that's a connection. Like, whoa, who knew 6'7" could be so deep? My millennials should be loving it. Actually, the millennials and the Gen Zs, you should be loving it. This is deep. It's deep, right? Deep emotion, deep mental state. And so, what needs to be happening is there has to be a energetic exchange between the generations so that we can actually build a very strong foundation in the transformation that's being done, where the next generation isn't meant to completely destroy what the generation before did, but they're meant to find anchor points to connect to. So, like a brick wall, it's not that the bricks that come above replace the ones below, they are connected to the ones below so that they can make the wall stronger. But part of the way of having that connection is having these generations challenge each other. So now let me know if you have any questions, comments, anything to add to this. But we will start relating this to what's happening in hip hop and what we've been seeing in hip hop, especially around this shift that's happening. So, we know that hip hop was born in 1973. That makes hip hop a Gen X, like Gen X, yeah, early Gen X, or actually later Gen X, like they're mid to late Gen X hip hop. But that means that it has Pluto in Libra. So this is where a lot of those themes of justice, pointing out what is not justice, what is not fair, it is everywhere. 6'7" is everywhere. So hip hop is meant to point out where there isn't justice. It's meant to be an advocacy, an anthem, part of this Gen X generation. It's supposed to be talking about fairness. And if we think about this in those generational terms, many of the founders of hip hop are actually coming from that generation before it. Probably mostly Gen Xers. But so Gen X and some baby boomers, but probably the ones that are like right on the cusp, are the founders of hip hop. And as the founders of hip hop, that's why hip hop is very much anchored in like the social justice space. And speaking about and talking about justice and bringing a voice to the voiceless and bringing justice and fairness to the people that are being forgotten. And it's a lot of the people that are from that space that are coming into this hip hop space. So if we think of some of those early founders of hip hop, it really is about social justice and advocacy. And that's coming from being part of this Gen X space. Yes, take a picture. Oh, yeah, no. Six and sevens are going to be all over for a while. Yeah, it does. We love that. We love being on the right track. So, thinking about these early founders, but also we keep having this discussion in hip hop about what happens with these older rappers. Hey, Cousin B, thanks for being here. So, some of these Gen X rappers are the ones that are now coming back and they're like, wait, no, this is the foundation of hip hop that we set. So we've seen this in a lot of the music that has come out. Like some of the more well known music that has come out has been like Clips, because they're both part of this Gen X. So they're vibrating at the same, they have that same Pluto in Libra and are really focused on the justice and the fairness. Um, we also have seen, oh my gosh, you could probably just start listing stuff for me because we've had a lot of them coming back out and bringing us music. Um, Josh, I think this is where some of what you are talking about comes in, where we had Mob Deep has come out recently with some new music and new albums. We've seen Nas actually doing more features um, than were done previously. Yeah, there's a lot of them. And so all of these older um, Gen X artists really are representing um, this same vibration, this same transformational vibration as hip hop. Now, if we think about the generation that has come next, this is the millennials. Oh my gosh, I gotta spell it again. Oh my god, oh my god, I can't spell. Can't spell! Okay, okay, two N's, two N's. Where the millennials are bringing the passion and the mystery. Artists that are part of this millennial group, Kendrick Lamar is a millennial. Kendrick Lamar is a millennial. Why did I use that same color? I don't know. Anyway, um, we also have Lawbry. Here, I don't have to use his real name. We could just use this. Is also part of this millennial group. They're bringing this passion and mystery that's in their work. But we see that those that are successful in the hip hop space are finding where they are able to be their authentic self. They're not faking who they are, but making a connection to the generation before. So they're not over on their own just making something up. Those that do not have that connection are the ones that kind of fall off. They're not solidified in this space. They're not connecting into the legacy of hip hop. So if we think about like Kendrick Lamar in particular, um, he's very much focused in and bringing a lot of messages around this justice, which is that transformation that these Gen X hip hop and hip hop in general has brought in. You right, New Beginnings. They're just seasoned real good. I like seasoning. Oh, that's funny. Uh, and so if they can make this connection, then they're good. But they also, so like Kendrick Lamar is bringing this justice piece, but he also is bringing this passion. And we do talk about how he's bringing this mystery. What Lawbry has done is he's just tried to mimic and hasn't made a true connection to that vibration below, to that generation below, or to hip hop as a whole. And that's why now that foundation is shaky. It's getting challenged and is shaky. But that's going to be true for any of these artists that are coming in this space, because hip hop started in this time of Pluto in Libra. There has to be this connection space around this justice, this fairness, this balance. And the next generation can connect to the generation below it. So then what comes next would be any of these Gen Z artists. And remember that they are coming in as the philosopher. Oh, you crack me up. I'm trying not to look at what you say in New Beginnings because you keep cracking me up. And I'm trying to be serious. We're trying to have serious conversation. So the Gen Z are the philosophers. These are the philosophers, and they're also like that logic, like the deep mental logic space. And so Gen Z artists, anybody have an example of a Gen Z artist that's doing this well? That's connecting from like a logical space into like a passion space here? Oh my gosh, stop. Seasoned and tenderized? Oh, you all are cracking me up. You all are so funny. I love being in the chat with you all. I'm trying to be serious. Okay, I'm back serious. So Gen Z is needing to connect in. So, one that I could think of, but it's kind of interesting how the connection happened, is I just made a video recently. And I only made it shorts because I didn't think it was that, like, well, using my Gen X brain, I didn't know it was that serious. But I have Gen Zers like actually making comments and stuff on it, is thinking about how the generations can be connected through a legacy. So in that video, I talk about how Tupac actually acts as a mirror and a connection point between Kendrick Lamar and Playboy Cardi. And what I'm just realizing is that this still fits with our conversation, because Tupac is he is this Gen X vibration. His legacy is in that same vibration as hip hop around justice, and he very much was focused, and his legacy is focused on justice and fairness. And he's connecting um, these generations to hip hop, but also to each other. So Playboy's Cardi's connection to Gen X in the form of hip hop or in form of Kendrick Lamar could be coming from Tupac. And the way that this connection is happening is because Tupac was, when you have a, so let me say this first. When you have a legacy, so a legacy starts when, a legacy starts when whatever it's a legacy of is born, and then the time of the legacy doesn't end at death, but it's the time when everything that is built up and created that encompasses and is the foundation of that legacy is within the the birth and the death. So Tupac's legacy is built on everything that he did and who he was from the time he was born, which is June 16th, to the time he died, which is September 13th. And Kendrick Lamar actually has a connection to Tupac's legacy through his birth date, because he was born on June 17th. And so that's that very close connection there. And Playboy Cardi is connected to the legacy of Tupac because he was actually born the same exact day that Tupac died. Oh my gosh. Rusty, what do you I said some good Gen Z artists. What you talking about? So then here's this connection point. Here's where Gen X is able to connect in to both the millennials and into the Gen Z group. Oh my gosh, I forgot where I wrote. There we go. And can help bring this together. So, really, what's kind of happening in hip hop is instead of it being stacked like um, a wall, it's like this. So, we have hip hop here. So, hip hop, and this is that Gen X energy. And then the next generation is coming in here. And so now these are the millennials. And they're finding the anchor points where they still need to encompass the identity that was originally built for hip hop. They can't get rid of it. They're building upon it. No, don't. You don't have to stop. It's cracking me up. And so then we have the Generation Z now, and these Gen Z artists, they need to find a way to be able to connect to the passion of the millennials, but also to the justice and fairness of hip hop as a whole, because they have to encompass both. It's so funny. Is this making sense? I'm not even going to be able to find my list because I wrote all over the place. So the question keeps coming up of like what's coming next for hip hop, and in these new artists that are coming in. So we already see that like those Gen X artists, they're not going anywhere. They're still there. They're still at the core of hip hop, and they're still representing and part of the culture. And these other generations would actually do well if they figured out how to be able to connect in with that legacy that has been started at Gen X in hip hop. Another way of thinking about it is thinking about how we've talked about before, where there's a core of who we are, and we have a set of vibrations that make up who we are. And then we carry these vibrations through life. And we talked about this, I think, yesterday too, where we have to go through these different stages in life. So we have to go through this youth phase where we are building identity. You all are so funny. I'm trying to not look, even though I want to, because I know it's good. And then you go through a state of power where your identity is being tested to make it strong, make it powerful. And then you have to go through this state of wisdom where now you are using your identity to teach others, or to be wise. Like now you're like the wise guru. No, you all aren't. You're not. New beginnings. I know y'all well enough to know. It doesn't bother me. Have a good old time. So here, this is where you're using that strong identity that has been built to be able to build an identity legacy. Legacy. There we go. And so something to think about is that right now, hip hop is here. So hip hop being 52 is right here. The shift and transition that we're feeling in the hip hop space is because hip hop is coming up to this transition point when it reaches age 54. It's shifting and changing because now it's no longer strengthening and building its identity. Its identity isn't being tested. Well, our identity is always tested, but it's not being tested as much. So now it can move into this place of wisdom where it's truly building upon its legacy and what it's going to leave behind, and its mark and impact on the world, because that's what our wisdom is. And so if hip hop as a whole and all of our Gen Xers are like over here, we already have some Gen Xers, so some of these hip hop artists have already moved into this wisdom space. So we do see some of these hip hop artists that have already moved into this wisdom space. And so the way that they are talking and moving and conveying what is what is the wisdom that they've gained from all of the lessons that they have gone through and what they've learned in life is now coming out. Now, because every vibration is neutral, we are always going to have people within a generation that are on all sides and angles. So we have people that are using the power that they're gaining from who they are in negative ways. And that becomes their legacy when they move into wisdom. We have people that are using it in purely positive ways. And now that becomes the energy that they're moving into that wisdom space that becomes their legacy. We have people that are very neutral, and it's kind of like some of the things that they did that were bad and some of the things that they did that were good are all contributing to the wisdom that will build their legacy. And there are always going to be people that are not learning their lessons, that are not growing in their identity, that they're still stuck in an old identity. We all know these people. Those people that like peaked in high school and they were like it in high school, and then you meet them when they're like 40 and they still think they the shit, but they still acting like they're in high school, except now they have thinning hair and a few more lump and bumps. They're seasoned, tenderized, right? New beginnings. Those people are going to be there also. And so we're seeing this in hip hop also, where we're seeing some of these older generation of artists that are coming through and are really stepping into this wisdom space where they are like, here is what I've learned being in this hip hop space and building this hip hop identity. And now I'm stepping into and showing wisdom. Now, it doesn't mean they're always serious, because I actually really like a lot of like what, don't necessarily like, well, we'll go through it, but like what Ice Cube is bringing out, where a lot of his stuff that he's coming out with is really like in that comedy space. It's like he's blended comedy with gangster rap. And I don't know. I think it's hilarious. I love it. But it's showing how he's moved through this space and become who he is now. And he's showing the most authentic version of himself now. So if hip hop is here, we have other generations that are lower here. So we have the millennial generation is right about here. Like they've crossed into this power space. These are the millennials, where they've crossed into this power space. So their identity is being tested. This is a lot of what we're seeing. That like the identity of like Lawbry and others is being tested. Are you who you really say you are? Because if you are in a place of authenticity, now you're strengthening your identity and you're gaining power from your identity. If you are not who you say you are, or you are somebody different, that is going to be shown also. So we saw like with this case against UMG that it was a different part of Lawbry's identity that was coming out and being shown. And he was trying to throw around power based on who he was. not realizing that that wasn't going to work in this hip hop space. So that's interesting. But also, this means that this generation can actually get a lot of help by connecting into this older generation, because this older generation has already been here. It's already had its identity tested. So if it can find an anchor point in this hip hop identity that has already been tested, now it can get help. These artists can get help moving around and building their own hip hop identities and adding to the legacy of hip hop instead of fighting against it. We also have, so then our Gen Z artists are right about here. And before I go into them, I want to get back in the chat and make sure I'm connected with you all. So let's see. Yes. Thank you for sharing that, Rusty, because that's actually a really good point. So each of these corners would be considered a transition point. So we do have the transition points where the biggest transition points are where we're transitioning from one square to another. So this one is when we're moving from, you're about 27 years old to about 30, is when you're going through this transition point. Hip hop right now is getting closer to this transition point, and this one is when you're like 54 to about 56 is when you're crossing this transition point. But actually, each of these points is a transition point, and these are 9 years. So this is when you're 9 years old. This is like 18. That's 27. Oh my gosh, what comes next? This one is 36. This is 45, and then we have 54. And then these also are your transitioning points. So then this one right here is like 63, and then this is 72, and then this is actually your birth, but also when you're hit 81. Oh, I love this. Yes, thank you for adding that, because that is so true. You all are the best. So back to our Gen Zers. So Gen Z actually is probably not that far, because now that I look at this, like we put those ages in, Gen Z is more like, I think they're right after, like they're in their 20s now. So, because let's see. All right, I gotta figure this out because it's gonna bother me. Oh, thank you, New Beginnings. Thank you. Let's see. Okay. So, yeah, so our Gen Zers are right here. They're right here. So they're approaching this transition point here. So this is our Gen Zers. And so the Gen Z generation of artists in hip hop, they've been going through and trying to build their identity. And they're having to figure out who they are as a person, but also who they are within this hip hop space when hip hop is all the way over in this power square. Like hip hop is almost done with this power square. And Gen Z is trying to have to navigate who they are as a person, but also who they are within hip hop. But they do have some examples in this millennial space that can help them. So, for example, we do have Kendrick Lamar here. No, not the same color. We want a different color. So Kendrick Lamar is a good example. And even Tyler the Creator is a good example too. And there's several others of someone that's in this millennial space where they have figured out how to have a unique identity within hip hop that still honors hip hop at the same time that they have built up their own authentic identity of who they are as a person. And sometimes those are the same, and sometimes those are different. But it's important to have both, because hip hop is from that Gen X generation, hip hop requires that you have balance, because that's that Pluto in Libra. You have to have some kind of balance between who you are in the hip hop space and who you are in general. Hi, Doc. Thanks for being here. So Gen Z's at this point where they're about to cross over into from youth, where they're building identity, into where their identity is about to be tested. And the millennial artists have already moved into that space and have been having their identities within hip hop and in general tested quite a bit the last few years. So if we think about these time periods for hip hop was transitioning between youth and power. So hip hop being born in 1973, that's when its identity started. And it was building its identity. It was learning who it was and stepping into the world. It transitioned, this is around 2000. So you can think about how hip hop began to have its identity challenged. It gained a lot of power in the 2000s. But that power that it gained was coming from the artists that had a very strong identity and sense of identity within the hip hop space. We have now seen some of those same artists that have decided to come out of the hip hop space. I'm thinking of like Andre 3000 and like Lauryn Hill, who was in and out of the hip hop space and is kind of now, because nobody really knew if she was hip hop or not, but I would consider her to be in there. But when that identity was being tested, it was, can you handle the power of the identity that you have created? And is the identity that you've created, is it in balance? Is it working with and coinciding with the identity you've built as an individual? Or are they clashing? So just to give you some ideas, so then thinking about from like 2000 until like 2009, 2010, that's when hip hop was in the space that millennials are in now. When that identity was being tested and strengthened. Before the 2000s, so from like Mm, so from like 1990, 1991 to 2000 is when hip hop was in the same position as Gen Z is now. So just to give you some kind of context. So you can like think about like what was happening in hip hop during those time frames, and that's what these different generations are going through right now. And they're having to figure out how to be able to anchor in to the generations before them so that we're building this strong legacy of hip hop. Huh. Okay. I There's nothing else coming. So let me know if you have questions, if any of this doesn't make sense, if it does make sense, if you have anything to add, please let me know. Because I think that's what has come out. And I'm sorry for those that have come in a little later and like been thrust into this conversation. And you'll probably think it's funny to know where this all came from. Yes, Josh, I think it is. I think it is good for hip hop. That I really do think that this shift out of like this power space into wisdom is actually really good for like that first part of hip hop. Um because now that hip hop identity isn't being tested, like we've seen where there's like this polarity, this dualism between is this hip hop or is that hip hop? That's really the end of that testing and can go into so hip hop turns 54 in 2027. So that's when we really should see this shift of hip hop moving from power into wisdom. I think it'll be really good. And it's even better if hip hop can really focus on healing its wounds, which I think is happening, and really understanding what parts of its identity are not actually for the greater good, that don't fit that vibration and can fall off, which I think we're seeing as well. Yeah, I think it's really good. I think it's exciting, especially if we can help these other generations to be able to connect in. But also, we get to sit back and observe because this also is happening very organically. Like like artists talk about. So, like Kendrick Lamar has talked a lot about, so like those millennial artists talk about what of those Gen X artists were like their greatest influences. That's them anchoring in to that generation and using what they're learning from that generation to be able to continue to move hip hop. I think we are seeing signs of that in Gen Z as well. And just for context, our Gen Alphas are, let me see. Mm, yeah, our Gen Alphas are like here. So we have these generations that are coming up, one right after another. And if they have enough of these um, examples of hip hop's legacy that they are able to connect into, now they can build upon it and transform it and continue this legacy and continue to bring it forward. I think it's very exciting. But we got to figure out how to get these generations to get along, which I don't think is actually ever going to happen. Yeah. Yes. Yes, exactly, Rusty. Like, it's finding those anchor points, it's finding those connection points where if the younger generations are able to find the connection points, the things that they like um, in the older generations and what the older generations have built, and then build upon it and transform it in their own unique way, then we can have some really beautiful things and some amazing hip hop music. And the legacy of hip hop will not just continue, but will be huge. Hey, lovely. I'm so glad you made it. Oh, yes. Number 10. Yeah, everybody hit that like button, but number 10 on that like button is a good number. Glad you made it. So, for those of you that have come in, we're talking about these generations of hip hop and how they connect with each other. And that came from looking at how each of these generations, let's go back here. Each of these generations come in with a different Pluto, and Pluto is the planet of transformation. And so different generations are meant to come in and transform the space in different ways. And so it's figuring out how to be able to connect those things. And all of this, all of this talk of generations came from this stupid 6-7 saying. It's not stupid, but it's not mine. It's that Gen Alpha's generations saying, and we all had them. But that's how we got there. Is talking about how 6-7 keeps coming up. This younger generation keeps talking about it, but that how each generation has its own thing. It has its own identity, its own set of slang words, its own way of doing things, and it actually has its own contribution to the transformation of our world that needs to come in play. I think it just is weird. Like I think about, oh my gosh. I think about even like some of the slang. So what is some of the Gen X slang? Cuz when we were saying that Gen X slang stuff, that the baby boomers were looking at us like, you sound stupid. Not remembering that when the baby boomers were saying their slang stuff and doing things their own way, that silent generation that came before them were saying that they looked stupid. I think it's just the way of the vibrational world. It's pretty funny though. I think I have been cracking up all week because I just think it's so funny how angry how angry people are getting, especially these teachers. So, I was a teacher for many, many years. So, I know that classroom management is hard and there's always something disruptive. The students are always doing something weird and disruptive. Oh yeah, rad. Word. That's a good one. Rad is a good one. Word is a good one. Oh my gosh, yeah. And I just think it's so funny how like these teachers are getting so upset. These teachers and parents are getting so upset about them using this term that it's like a whole news series. Like everybody's talking about it. And like, why aren't you teaching? Oh my gosh, their school banned them from saying it? I think that's hilarious. I know. Oh yeah, the bomb. Yeah, that's the bomb. That was a good one too. All of these slang words. Oh my gosh. But that's crazy that they've been banned from saying it. Like I get that it's disruptive. Uh I get that it's irritating and annoying, but who cares? Like every generation has their annoying things that they do. They dress weird, they talk weird, they use weird slang, and it's all because all they're doing is they are in. Ooh, ooh, where are you? Oh my gosh, where is it? There it is. They're in this youth square trying to build their identity. That's why we do that. Everybody does that. All that in a bag of chips. That's a good one, Josh. Making me nostalgic. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm sorry. Like, I love teachers, and teachers don't get enough credit. But I'm going to have to go on my soapbox a little bit for this because we have had the unfortunate things happen in our educational space where education has now been inundated with teachers that cannot teach. We no longer have like the community teachers, just like we no longer have like the community police officers or firefighters. Like teachers they don't understand the community, and so they can't understand the kids that are coming out of the community. So yeah, it's gonna be harder to teach. Okay, I'm done with that. Oh yeah, shut the door, shut the front door. Not open the back door. Backdoor bandit. Oh my gosh, yes, keep them coming. Hey millennials, where are your slangs? You better throw your slangs in there. And Gen Zers, I know you in here. What are your slangs? Slang terms. Talk to the hand. Oh my gosh, that's a good one too. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Oh my gosh. Yes, talk to the hand because the face don't understand. I remember oh my gosh. I remember my mama and my aunts getting so upset about that. Talk to the hand. Oh, you're so disrespectful. Oh, that's so funny. Oh my goodness. That is so funny. Oh, okay. Now let me see if I can see. Okay, Gen Z. Yes. Rigged and poggers. I just think it's all funny. Uh, well, yeah, sorry to tell you, Gen Z, but you're not the newest kid on the block anymore. You're hitting that 27 spiritual maturity. Yeah, that actually is a really good example. That School of Rock, yeah, of going from Gen X to millennials. Uh-huh. That is a good example. Oh yeah, this is hilarious. All right, let me see if I can find my list here. So, I did not expect this 6-7 to be so much, but we did get through it. We talked a little bit about where Mob Deep and Nas and Big L Fit. Josh, if you're still here, I think you're still here. Yeah, because you told me to talk to the hand. um, what else would you like to talk about for these new albums that came out? Are there any words or lyrics that you want to look at? Yes, period. Oh my gosh. Oh my god. Oh my gosh, you all are so funny. Anything else we should put on this list to talk about? Like I that was a lot. We actually talked about a whole lot today. So I might just see what Joshua wants to talk about with, because Josh wanted to talk about Mob Deep and Nas and Big L, and then do our random number. Woo, you all are so funny. Yeah, I've been on here a while. Oh my gosh, you all are so funny. Talk to the elbow because the hand ain't worth the extension. Get out of here, Rusty. Oh my gosh. Hilarious. I just think all of it is hilarious. And maybe it is because I'm a Gen X Capricorn. Cuz Capricorns are we're that Capricorn sun. So your sun sign is very much how you think. And Capricorn suns are very sarcastic, and then Gen X are very sarcastic also. So I think it's actually hilarious how upset people get about the slang. Oh, okay. Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah. That actually is a really good point. That it like with everything else that is going on. Yes. Oh, that actually is hilarious. That Big L is dropping his album on Halloween when Drake is like, maybe I will. I don't know if we're ever gonna see that album, but we'll see. Oh yeah, you know what is actually one thing that we could draw in. So these, let's see. I think Nas is the one that was born in 1973, which is exactly the same as hip hop. Havoc and Prodigy of Mob Deep are 1974. And then Big L is also 1974. Ooh, excuse me. So they are definitely part of this Gen X group that is like coming back out and trying to um, bring that core identity of hip hop back out for everybody. I am curious because I wrote them down, so let me see. I am curious about what their life path numbers are. Hmm. Okay, so let me see. Yeah, here we go. All right, so let's look at these life path numbers. So for Mob Deep, we have Havoc and we have Prodigy, rest his soul, which is, oh man, that was a loss. Prodigy was a big loss. But let's see. Havoc was born May 21st, 1974. And I believe this is This is really close to that Gemini. We have a lot of hip hop artists that are Geminis or very close to Geminis. And then Prodigy is his birth date was November 2nd, 1974. It's kind of interesting that Prodigy is actually very close to Lawbree's birth date, too. So that's interesting. But let's look at these numbers because I'm just curious. Because what I'm seeing, and I think I've said this to you all before, is that I'm seeing that as I'm doing like these life path numbers for hip hop artists, that a lot of them, oh, somebody's having a good time in their car. Oh, you just go park right in front, hey? All right. Hey, it wouldn't be one of my vibrant numeral streams if we didn't have some kind of distraction. Um, but what I'm seeing is a lot of these hip hop artists have their life path numbers in the 40s. So, like from 40 until like 49. I'm also seeing that like world leaders and like speakers or like um, leaders of any kind actually are in the next part of like 50 to 59. So that's interesting. But let's look here. All right, so if we first do the year. I'm glad you're catching it yourself. It looks like you're having a whole conversation by yourself in there, Rusty. I love it. Oh my gosh. So 1974 is 21. And so then for Havoc, we have 5 plus 21 plus 21, which is interesting. Oh, I don't know why I did that. And so Havoc's life path number is in that 40s. It's 47. And just because I just did it, this is actually the same life path number as Playboy Cardi. Because I was just looking at that for that other video. Playboy Cardi also is a 47. So interesting. Okay, be careful, new beginnings. And then if we look at Prodigy, we have 11 plus 2 plus 21. And look at all those twos in the twos and the ones together. That's so interesting. So we have Havoc that was born on the 21 in a 21 resonating year, and then we have Prodigy that has all of these twos and ones in a 21 year. So this one I haven't seen before. So Prodigy's a 34. Hmm. Interesting. I don't know if that means anything. Does that mean anything to you all? Because I'm not getting anything. I'm like not getting any kind of messages here. So we're just gonna keep going. and this might be it. Those connections might be all it was meant for us to look at. So let's look at Big L first because he's right there in that same year of 1974. I do also like so Josh pointed out that big L stands for the L stands for Lamont, which is it actually means lawyer, and we've been having all of this court stuff in the last couple weeks. I think that's actually hilarious. That cracked me up. But Big L's birthday is so another May birthday, May 30th, 1974. And so we take the 21 for the year plus 5 plus 30. Let's see. 21 plus 5 plus 30. Okay, so he's coming up as a 56. So these we've got two here that are kind of breaking this mold. But what is interesting though is Drake, or as I like to call him, Lawbury. His life path number is 58. And then, did you say that it was? Let me look. Did you say that it was? Yeah, so it is Big L that's dropping his album around the same time as Drake. Um and so it's interesting that their life path numbers are so similar. That's actually pretty funny. And then we have, let's look, I need a different color. I don't know what's up with me choosing colors today. You all probably haven't noticed, but I've been having trouble picking colors. So then we also wanted to, oh yeah, Nas. And Nas has been popping up in quite a few features here recently. I'm liking it. Like cuz I think the first one that I heard was um on the Clips album, but then after that there's been more and more popping up where he's been featured. And he hasn't even had to say anything about stupid Jim Jones, which is great. Love that. So Nas's birthday is September 14th, 1973. And the oh wow. So that might be something. Cuz what the heck? Cuz we have Playboy Cardi up here has the same life path number as Havoc, but also his birthday, and this might be like what's anchoring Playboy Cardi very much into hip hop, because his birthday is the same as hip hop as Tupac's death date, but it's also very close to Nas's. So he's like resonating very close to both of them, both Tupac's legacy, because that legacy, the time of building the identity that's the base and foundation of Tupac's legacy, ended on September 13th, actually the exact same day that Playboy Cardi was born. But there's also this vibrational connection point to Nas. That's interesting. You all tell me if you're seeing anything else, because I'm not seeing anything else to talk about here, but I'm going to just keep talking. So 1973 is 21. And so then we have 9 plus 14 plus 20. Okay, and we have another 40, 43. Interesting. So I do think this is an interesting like set of synchronicities that are coming up of like them um it's like the vibrations are very much aligning with what else is happening right now. So like they have come out, so we have Mob Deep and Nas coming out this with the song together, well, Mob Deep's album and then the song together, and they as artists are resonating very close to Playboy Cardi. And then we have Big L that's coming out with his album on Halloween that's coinciding with when um, Labrie may or may not put out his album, and that's very close to his life path number. So we got some things here we might need to explore a little bit more. Josh, was there anything else you wanted to look at? Because I think I need to explore this a little bit more. And also, if you could, um, everybody could send me more things like this, more of these artists that are coming back out and that are resonating, because there's something there. There's something happening there. I just don't think we have all the information yet. Oh, yes, I can definitely do Infinite. Cause is that the album name for Mob Deep? Okay, that's okay. Yeah, let's look at it. So infinite, ooh, powerful word. And actually, let me write this out so what we do to find the vibration of every word, because we do have some people that haven't seen this as many times, and it's good to repeat, is we take the letters in English, um, A equaling 1 and Z equaling 26. And we substitute the numbers in for the letters, and then we add it up. So I is 9, uh, N is 14, F is, oh my gosh, 6, I is 9, N is 14, I is 9, T is 20, and E is 5. So let's look at this. So let's add this up. 86. That's interesting because 86 has been actually coming up a lot. So when we add 8 plus 6, then we get 14, and 1 plus 4 adds up to 5. So this is coinciding with a lot of the change that we're seeing because 5 is change vibration. But the change is coming from an interesting place because 86 is coming up a lot because this resonates with the vibration of the word a storm. And we've had a lot of discussions around storms. Well, in like the news cycles and in just even in the hip hop space where things are coming in like a storm and like completely disrupting things. And that is the best way that people are able to describe this vibration of it's like a storm is coming in and disrupting. But we've also had some interesting things happening with storms around the world, like literal weather. So there's been some crazy weather that has been happening all over the world. Actually, for like the last 2 months, but this week in particular, we've also seen a lot of the Earth in emptying out energy or releasing energy, and sometimes that can come as a storm. This week, it's actually come. We've had earthquakes this week. Um, one in couple in particular in the Philippines that have been pretty damaging. So hopefully everyone there is recovering and okay. But also, I think it was last night that there was a pretty big volcanic eruption um, on the biggest volcano, on like some of the biggest volcanoes. I think both in Hawaii and in Russia, there were some volcanic eruptions that were happening. So that's where like this storm is coming in. Also, there's been people that have been referring to, so today there people have been doing the No Kings protest, and I've heard people referring to these as a storm, but also like what has led up to these protests and what's been happening, um, just not just in the United States but in the world, has kind of come through like a storm. So that's very interesting. Now, this number 86, it really is telling us about that we need to examine comfort zones. So our comfort zones need to be examined. And in examining the comfort zones, it will be able to reveal what are some of these cycles that are either good or not good for us or for anybody. What's interesting is that when we get to the 14, this 14 really is about foundations and stability. So we're having to look at the comfort zones and the cycles that are happening, to really examine the stability so that change can happen. Let me move this over so we can actually see it. But also, 14 is like this vibration of mixing. So, where like an 11 is about balancing between things, 14 is more about mixing things. It's like when you're trying to mix vinegar and oil. And so it's mixing, but they're not fully mixing together. Oh, it came back. Came back around, eh? All right. um so it's like a mixing that's happening, and we do see that in a storm where, like in an actual physical storm, it's like the cold front and the warm front are coming together and they're colliding. It's like warm and cold are colliding, whether it's air or water, or both, and it's creating like this weird mixing that can create a storm. So let's see. What did you say, Josh? Oh, okay. Of course. Of course. So that's why we needed to look at this word, because there is a flood coming. And I wonder what that phrase actually is. Because it's interesting that he would use flood, because it definitely is part of that storm. Um, but yeah, that's what I thought. So flood. So let me. Oh my gosh, what am I doing here? My calculator is like acting up. Stop it. Um, that's what I was seeing. So the flood. Um. Oh wait, let me get a different color here. Different color. All right, we'll go here. So the flood is coming is the whole phrase. And I see your request, Rusty. I am going to come back to that. Yeah, you're right, Rusty. Yeah, those typhoons are. Yep. Whew, those things are dangerous. So, what's interesting is flood is actually 52, which is the vibration of the word earth. It's also the vibration of the word heart. So, that's interesting. Let's see. Oh my gosh. My calculator is acting up. There we go. Is coming is resonating at 89, which actually is the vibration of the word unity. But I was just writing 89 earlier. I'm trying to see because there are some other 89 words that are resonate with like the storm, but I can't think of them right now. So that's interesting. But then look at this. If we do the storm or the flood, this equals 85, which is storm. So the flood is coming is the exact same as saying storm is coming. And all of this resonates at 174, which has been coming up a lot and brings us back to one of our first conversations because that first song that Screwface Jean put together, Document 79, this adds up to 174. So that means that Document 80 adds up to 175. Oh, there's your connection. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. So I guess we're going to be seeing some more storm analogy. Everybody stay safe in the actual physical storms because it's coming. It has felt like I put a post out a few days ago or like earlier this week because it has felt like there's a big surge of energy that's coming in as we get to the end of October. But it's very different than September energy, where that September energy was like quick. It was like doing a quick clean, trying to clean and end things right at the end of the month. I think in October, it's a lot of energy that's going to be surging in. So we could see a lot of things happening around this feeling and imagery of storm. Wow. Okay. So maybe that's what we needed. We needed that word, infinite. And did the Mob Deep album just recently come out? Or is it coming out? Because it's Big L's that's coming out in October or on Halloween, which is also interesting. Oh, it came out on October 10th. It came out on the portal day. Of course it did. Came out on that portal day. I'm telling you, if these artists aren't using numerology and astrology for dropping their music, then it's extremely synchronistic. Because October 10th is the day where is one of those portal days where it's like this big movement of energy, and anything that you want to release, like push out or bring into the world, it's very easy to. And a lot of people drop their albums on or around portal days, and also when there's stuff going on with Mercury, which is the planet of communication. That's very interesting. Thank you for bringing that, Josh. So yeah, if you all can continue to bring me some of these artists that you want me to look at and that are doing some things that are interesting, then we can look more at these life path numbers, to be able to see if we see any patterns there, but also what this connection is with the overarching vibrations. You're welcome, Josh. Thanks for bringing it. Okay, so Rusty, I see you want to talk about spirit animals and the woodpecker, which I'm going to do. What I'm going to do first is get our new random number so that anybody that was here and just wanted to be part of the hip hop discussion, our usual discussion, can choose to be able to stay or to go. Sound good, Rusty? We'll do this, get a new random number, and then we will talk about spirit animals and look at the vibration of your woodpecker. That sounded funny. Okay, so here we go. Let's get a clean space. Clean space. Here we go. All right. Are we ready to spin the wheel? So we get these random number vibrations every single week so that we can begin to practice seeing and feeling and experiencing these vibrations, because it's really important for us to do that so that we can start using that energy and using those vibrations in very intentional ways and not getting to a place where we just feel like a victim to it. So let's go ahead and spin our wheel and see what our random number is. Here we go. Spin the wheel. I think it's spinning. Spin, spin, spin. $19. 19. 19. I'm going to explain to you why I just keep saying 19. 19. Really? The universe thinks it's so smart and so funny. 19. So, 19 is the vibration we are going to be seeing all over the freaking place this week, and that we need to watch out for. October, the whole month of October is operating at 19, where the vibrations of 9 that are coming from September are coming in to the October space, so that anything that has ended or needs to end opens up space and for new energy to come in. And when this new energy comes in, then we also are allowing in this God energy so that we are able to use this one energy in very dynamic ways. So a lot of one energy. Also, I don't think I've said this before, but 19 is actually my favorite number. And 19 has been following me my whole entire life. So, I was supposed to be born on the 19th. I was supposed to be actually a Sagittarius sun and be born on the 19th But I was late. I decided I did not want to come into this really fucked up world. And so I came late when they forced me to on the 23rd. So already there's the 19. When I was younger, like way younger, like a little girl younger, and I was, you know, how you play pretend and you pretend that you were older? I always would pretend that I was 19 years old. 19 has been my favorite number since I was a child. Um, and then I have two girls. They are 3.5 years apart. Both of them were born on the 19th of their month. And I had my first baby on when I was 19 years old. So 19 kind of follows me around. But what we want to use this 19 for, so the vibrations that we're looking for, I think really is around this October energy. We're looking for where things are ending or completing. Completing or shifting. Where is something ending, completing, or shifting, or where does it need to end, be completed, or shift, so that it opens up space for this brand new energy? And this can be anything that's new. And by that new energy coming in, it's just like October up here. By making sure that whatever needs to end is ended, now it's allowing the God energy to come in with the new energy and bring a ton of new things, because this is that one. So this could be the week where we see a lot of new things, new ideas, new ways of doing things, new discussions, or the same discussions from a new point of view. So that's the vibration that we'll be looking for this week. And we'll be trying to pay attention for, so that we can, again, start being able to recognize these vibrations when they're coming into our spaces. Not just seeing the numbers, but also the themes that go with those vibrations, so we can begin to use it. So hopefully this week also, you're able to recognize where something needs to end, be completed, or shifted, so new energy can come in, and then you can apply that new energy. Because, especially because we're in October, but also because we got this 19, whatever you're applying that new energy to, you're going to have the backing of God, because we have that 0. So it'll be like God will be bringing in that energy and supporting that use of the energy. Woo, that's a good one. All right, so 19, and we still have that 9. So I think for the last 3 or 4 weeks, we've had a 9 within our number of the week. And so we still have this strong 9 energy from 2025 that's coming in. So that's very interesting. Okay, so anybody that was here for hip hop stuff, you're all welcome to stay and listen to Spirit Animals. I'm just gonna go through it quickly, but if not, thank you for being here. Make sure to hit the like button on your way out. We're going to talk about spirit animals real quick. All right. So, spirit animals in general. So, generally, when we're talking about spirit animals, what we're talking about is the vibration that those animals bring in play. And so, when we encounter animals, they're pure vibration. And so, it's similar to like when we are seeing a repeated number that animals are bringing us messages. They're bringing us vibrational messages. And if it's like a pet or it's your spirit animal where you're seeing it over and over again, now it's like you have a special connection to that animal. And so that's really where like this spirit animal comes in. If it's where you're just seeing this animal or bird um, once, then it really is about a message coming in for you. And but if it's like your favorite animal or your pet that you are encountering, then it really is about an energetic exchange and a energetic relationship and connection. And so what we do with this is just like with us as people, there are the two vibrations that we use for animals. We use the name that they have, but we could also use their life path number. Now, it's not very often, unless it's a pet, that we know what a animal's birthday is. But if you do know the animal's birthday, like a pet, you can get a life path number for them and then add it to your life path number to know how you're working with that animal's energy or what that animal's energy or that pet's energy does for you. So all of your fur babies, they're actually shifting and changing and working with your vibration by being in your presence. And the best way to do that is to look at life path number. When it's just a general animal that we see, we can just use the name. We can use the name that we give them because a lot of times when we have an energetic or spiritual connection with an animal and they keep coming around, then we end up giving them a name. So it is significant as to what name we give them, but also we have the name of how we identify what type of animal they are. And so here, if we look at woodpecker, while I'm doing this, you can also always look up, if you look up a animal, you can look up and ask for the spiritual meaning of that animal. And there's actually a lot of things online that'll help you start to figure out what the message is. Woodpecker, this is a good one. Actually, when we add up all of the letters, it resonates at 115. And 115 is the numerical vibration of the phrase thank you. So the woodpecker is bringing a vibration of gratitude and like you get the same feeling as an authentic thank you, but also this is the numerical vibration of the phrase love you. So when it's a real true thank you, love you, and animals are pure vibration. So a woodpecker coming around and interacting with you, that's a pure vibration of 115. It's a pure vibration of thank you and love you. So that's actually a very good one. And then let's see. Let's look at your life path number, Rusty. So your life path number is 38. So then if we do 38 plus this 115, then this tells your connection to the woodpecker and how you could work with its energy and why it's there. So this adds up to 153. And so what this is telling us is that really the significance of woodpecker in your life is really around needing to grow. Like it's really helping you to slow down and pay attention to the growth that you need to make so that you can make big changes in your life. You probably interact with woodpeckers more often when you are in a state of change. Like that's probably when they come around more often, is when something is changing and they're reminding you of the growth that you need to make in order to change, so that whatever is meant for you, whatever this new thing that's meant for you comes in, you're ready for it. This adds up to 9. Get a different color here. And so the work, energetic work that you're supposed to be doing with the woodpecker is around finding endings to cycles. So it's like ending the way that you do things or that have been done in generations before you. And even just recognizing what are some of those cycles that are no longer serving you and being able to change them. All right, does that make sense? We could talk more about some of these spirit animals maybe on a Friday. So if anybody would like to bring their spirit animals or names of their pets or birthdays of their pets on a Friday, we could probably talk about this even more. Thanks for bringing this up, Rusty. Did you have any questions before we get out of here? I've been on here a long time. Okay. So then that makes sense. If it's aligning with like your life story, then that makes sense that the woodpecker would be your spirit animal and you'd have a strong connection to it. It's because you have that strong vibration running through your life in that way. Yep. Yep. More and more 10. Very much so. You should look into it, Rusty. You should look into past lives. We could talk about that on, if you come back on a Friday, because on Saturdays we talk about hip hop, but if you come back on a Friday when we talk about general stuff, we can talk about past lives. I actually got lots of info on that. Cool. This was good. We went through a lot of stuff. We got some good stuff. All right. So I'm going to go and get something to eat now. Thank you all for being here. Please make sure to, like, subscribe, and share, and all that good stuff. And if you have any questions or comments or want to add to the discussion, feel free to put all of that in the chat. And I will make sure, I'm pretty good at putting, looking at comments too. So you can put it in the comments. And I'm pretty good at making sure I look at that. Oh, there's a lot of them. I go to, I think it's Astro Cafe or Astro Seek. Astro Seek. But you could actually just put in a search where you ask for a free birth chart and you'll be able to get it. Yeah. Thank you so much. I will see you all very, very soon. Thank you for being here. I'm gonna go eat now. I'll talk to you soon. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Bye.